So we're going to look at PowerBI Desktop for use in data visualization. The first thing we need to do is bring some data into PowerBI Desktop, and we'll do that because using the PowerQuery. It has a very similar but frustratingly not identical PowerQuery to Excel. So Power BI Desktop opens up with this splash screen, and by all means explore this at some later stage. It's kind of informative, but we open PowerQuery and you get a canvas like this. The only thing to point out quickly is that we won't touch on later is these options on the left hand side. The first one is the report building canvas. The second one lets you look at the data you've got, and the third one lets you build a data model, somewhat like an entity relationship diagram in database work. So for these demonstrations, we're not going to move off the report building canvas, but just be aware of those other buttons there. And what we're going to do, we're going to open PowerQuery to bring the data in. So we get to PowerQuery from the Get Data button. So if I select the Get Data button, as with Excel, it can connect to a very wide variety of data. It can connect to files, it can connect to databases, wide range of databases. It can connect to a whole load of stuff within its own ecosystem. It can connect to facilities on Azure, and it can also do a lot of work with other online services and yet more. So this is a tool that's designed to fit in a wide range of data ecosystems. We're just going to do some demonstrations using the Excel workbook that we've created earlier. So but I want to create a connection and bring it in through PowerQuery. So get data and select an Excel workbook, and then say connect, and I then need to find the Excel workbook that I'm interested in, and I'm going to use the one that has some VLOOKUPs that create some interpreted tables. And again, find that file and open, and it creates a connection, and it should then bring up a slightly more interesting field in that when it looks at that spreadsheet, it identifies all the worksheets within the workbook. So so it identifies the worksheets for coding, which is all set out as we were working. It has a little bit of information there and a little bit of information further along. It has collisions. It has some of these pivot tables. It has a whole worksheet tab on the crashes, but if you remember, we created a table. We designated a table within that spreadsheet. So we'll select just that table, and if I press the tick box, I then get the option of just loading the data. But even in the preview, you can see PowerQuery has yet again decided that the accident index must be a number, and it's messing us up. So we definitely need to press transform data or equivalent button and open the PowerQuery editor within Power BI. And if I just move this editor over a little bit, so very, very, very similar to the PowerQuery we have in Excel. We want to change the type of the accident index so that it's text, and we want to replace the current step, and we want to replace the do the same for the accident reference. and we want to change type and make that text, and again replace current. And we can do the same kind, make the same kind of decisions we made before. Control and click and remove some columns, and indeed if I wanted I could remove a lot of columns. Just point out, we can see here something very weird has happened with the time conversion. So I'm going to fix that. It's quite easy to fix. I'm going to right click and I'm going to change the type, and we can see what it's done is it's guessed that was a date time field when it is just a time field. We have a date field that it's correctly interpreted, and we've had to tell it that the time field is a time field, and that would make that variable available for further use. So once I'm happy I've everything done, again I could put slightly more informative labels in, remove lat and lon, I can rename that to accident index, accident index, accident index, and accident reference to text, and the last one I can rename and I can say time to time. So again, got the set of instructions, human readable, we can check that's all the steps we wanted to take, and so on. And when we're happy, press close and apply, and that will load our data into Power BI. And it's a slow process loading this. Cue a long discussion. If we weren't connecting to a spreadsheet, if we were connecting to some corporate database, do I do the filtering on the database or do I do it within PowerQuery? But that's beyond the scope of what we're trying to do here. All we want is that spreadsheet loaded in, and it's just pulling data in from that table. Give it a couple of more minutes to complete the loading, just to point out a couple of aspects of the data when it's all loaded.